I slept at 10:30 p.m. for 30 days. Here's what happened. You know that feeling when you're scrolling through your phone at 1 a.m., telling yourself just 5 more minutes, and then suddenly it's 2:30 and you have to be up at 6? Yeah, that was my life. Every single night. I am not gone, sit here and pretend I was some productivity guru who had it all figured out. I was a mess, a functional mess, maybe, but still a mess. My sleep schedule was all over the place. Some nights I'd crash at midnight. Other nights I'd be up until 3 a.m. watching YouTube videos I didn't even care about. And mornings, don't even get me started. I'd hit snooze so many times my alarm probably developed trust issues. But here's the thing that really got me. I was tired, like bone deep, soul-crushing tired. Not just physically, but mentally too. I'd sit at my desk trying to work and it felt like my brain was wading through peanut butter. Everything took twice as long as it should have, and I was constantly running on coffee and sheer stubbornness. So one night, after yet another day of feeling like a zombie, I made a decision. Actually, let me be honest, I made a desperate, slightly delirious decision at 11:47 p.m. while lying in bed doom-scrolling Twitter. I was gonna fix my sleep schedule. For real this time. The plan was simple. Go to bed at 10:30 p.m. every single night for 30 days. No exceptions. No, just this once. No, I'll start tomorrow instead. And I was gonna document the whole thing because, honestly, I needed some accountability, and also because I was curious if it would actually change anything. Spoiler alert, it changed everything. But not in the way I expected. Days 1, 2, 3. The absolute worst. Let me just say this up front. The first 3 days were hell. Pure, unadulterated hell. Day 1, I set like 15 alarms to remind me to start getting ready for bed at 10 p.m. I brushed my teeth, put on my pajamas, got into bed right on schedule at 10:30, and then, I just laid there, wide awake, staring at the ceiling like it was gonna reveal the secrets of the universe. My body was so confused. It was like, dude, what are you doing? We don't go to sleep until at least midnight. This is weird. This is wrong. I'm not tired. And it was right, I wasn't tired. I was wired. My mind was racing with random thoughts. Like, why do we park in driveways and drive on parkways? Who decided that was okay? I probably fell asleep around midnight anyway, which was frustrating because I'd already spent an hour and a half lying there feeling like an idiot. Day 2 was somehow worse. I was determined to make it work, so I did the same thing. 30 p.m., in bed, lights off. And once again, my brain decided this was the perfect time to remember every embarrassing thing I'd ever done. Like that time in 7th grade when I called my teacher Mom. Thanks, brain. Really helpful. By day 3 I was starting to question the entire experiment. I wasn't falling asleep any faster. I still felt tired during the day. And now I was also frustrated. I actually texted my friend Mike at like 11 p.m. and was like, this is stupid. I'm giving up. And you know what he said? Cool, you lasted 3 days. Very impressive. That annoyed me enough to keep going. Spite is a powerful motivator, it turns out. Days 4 to 7. Something shifts around day 4. Something weird started happening. I was still getting into bed at 10:30, but I was actually feeling a little bit sleepy. Not exhausted, but like, tired enough that lying down felt good instead of frustrating. ID started doing this thing where ID put my phone in a drawer across the room before bed. Not because I'm some disciplined superhuman, but because I knew if it was within arm's reach, I'd grab it and start scrolling. Out of sight, out of mind, or whatever. By day 7, I was falling asleep by 11 p.m. pretty consistently. Which doesn't sound impressive, but compared to my usual 1 or 2 a.m., it was huge. And here's what I noticed. I was waking up before my alarm, like naturally, just opening my eyes at 6:15 instead of being violently jolted awake by my phone screaming at me. That first morning I woke up before my alarm. I just laid there for a second, kind of shocked. I actually felt rested. It was bizarre. I couldn't remember the last time I'd woken up and not immediately wanted to go back to sleep. Days 15 to 21, the real changes. This is when the experiment stopped being about sleep and started being about everything else. Around week 3 I noticed I was just in a better mood, like consistently. I wasn't snapping at people over little things. I didn't feel that constant undercurrent of irritation that I just accepted as part of my personality. Turns out I'm actually a pretty chill person when I'm not running on 4 hours of sleep and caffeine. My relationship with my girlfriend improved too, which was unexpected. We weren't fighting or anything before, but I realized I'd been pretty checked out in the evenings. I'd come home from work exhausted, zone out on my phone, and barely have actual conversations with her. But now that I had energy in the evenings, we were actually hanging out, cooking together, watching movies, talking about our days. Basic stuff, but it mattered. Work got better too. Not because I was suddenly a genius, but because I could actually focus. I'd sit down at my desk and get into a flow state instead of constantly battling brain fog. Projects that used to take me all day were getting done in a few hours. But here's the thing nobody tells you about sleeping better. You start noticing all the other ways you've been screwing up your health. I became weirdly aware that I was eating like garbage. Like I'd always known my diet wasn't great, but when you're exhausted all the time you don't really have the mental bandwidth to care. Now I did. I started eating actual meals instead of just snacking throughout the day. I was drinking more water, I even started going for walks in the morning because I actually had time and energy for it. Days 22 to 30. The unexpected part the last week of the experiment was when I had my biggest realization. And it's gonna sound super cheesy, but bear with me. I was sitting in my favorite coffee shop one morning not because I needed coffee to function, but because I just wanted to be there, and I was reading a book, an actual physical book, and I realized I felt content. Not happy in some over-the-top way, just quietly content. When was the last time I'd felt like that? I couldn't remember. For years, I'd been operating in this state of constant stress and mild panic, always feeling behind, always feeling like I should be doing more, and I'd thought that was just life. That's just how being an adult is, right? But it wasn't, or at least, it didn't have to be. Sleeping at 10:30 p.m. didn't magically fix all my problems. I still had bad days. I still had anxiety about stuff. I still procrastinated and made dumb decisions. But I had space to deal with those things now. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was actually living. By day 30, going to bed at 10:30 didn't feel like this thing I had to force myself to do. It felt normal, natural. My body would start getting tired around 10, and I'd actually want to go to bed instead of fighting it. What actually changed? Okay, so let me break down the actual tangible changes I noticed over those 30 days. First, I was falling asleep in like 15 minutes instead of lying awake for hours. My mind wasn't racing anymore when I hit the pillow. Second, I was waking up naturally before my alarm most days. And when my alarm did go off, I wasn't hitting snooze 5 times. I'd just get up wild. I know. Third, my energy levels were consistent throughout the day. No more of that 3 p.m. crash where I wanted to curl up under my desk and nap. Fourth, my mood was way more stable. I wasn't having those days where everything felt overwhelming and I wanted to quit my job and move to a cabin in the woods. I mean, I still wanted the cabin, but not because I was burnt out. Fifth, and this is huge, I was actually enjoying things again. Food tasted better. Conversations were more engaging. Music hit different. It sounds dramatic, but it's true. When you're constantly exhausted, everything is just muted, like you're experiencing life through a fog. The hard truth, but I also need to be real about the hard parts, because it wasn't all sunshine and perfectly rested mornings. I had to say no to a lot of stuff. Late night hangouts with friends, watching new episodes of shows when they dropped at midnight, spontaneous plans that would have kept me out past 10. Some of my friends didn't get it. I got called lame more than once. There were nights when I really didn't want to go to bed at 10:30. Nights when I felt like I was missing out. Or when I just wanted to stay up and finish watching a movie or reading a book. And sometimes I did stay up, I'm not a robot, but I tried to make those exceptions rare. The biggest challenge was weekends. It is so tempting to just throw the whole schedule out the window and stay up late on Friday and Saturday. And I did that a couple times, and you know what? It completely screwed me up. One late night would mess with my sleep for the next 3 days, so I had to accept that this wasn't a Monday through Friday thing. It had to be consistent, even on weekends, which meant my social life looked different. Brunch plans instead of late night bars. Movie nights that started at 7 instead of 9, that kind of thing. Where I am now, it's been a few months since that initial 30-day experiment, and I'm still going to bed around 10:30 most nights. Not because I'm forcing myself to, but because I genuinely feel better this way. Do I still have nights where I stay up late? Yeah, of course, life happens. But they're the exception now, not the rule. And when I do stay up late, I feel it the next day, which just reinforces why I stick to the schedule most of the time. The weirdest part is that I don't feel like I'm missing out anymore. I used to think that going to bed early meant I was wasting my evenings, that I was being boring or old or whatever. But now I realize I was wasting way more time being exhausted and unproductive during the day than I am losing by going to bed at a reasonable hour, and honestly, most of the stuff I was staying up late for wasn't even that important. Scrolling through social media, watching videos I'd forget about the next day, reading random articles that didn't matter. It was just filler, a way to avoid being alone with my thoughts or admitting that the day was over. Final thoughts. Look, I'm not here to tell you that going to bed at 10:30 p.m. will change your life. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Everyone's different. Some people are natural night owls, and that's cool. But if you're like I was, constantly tired, running on fumes, feeling like you're just getting through each day instead of actually enjoying it, then maybe it's worth a try. Not because some productivity guru said you should, but because you deserve to feel good. You deserve to have energy. You deserve to wake up and not immediately hate the fact that you're awake. 30 days isn't that long. It's doable. And even if you don't stick with it forever, you might learn something about yourself in the process. For me, the biggest lesson wasn't even about sleep. It was about the fact that I'd been living my life on hard mode for no reason. I'd normalized being exhausted, normalized feeling overwhelmed, normalized pushing through instead of taking care of myself. And once I stopped doing that, once I gave myself the basic thing my body needed, enough sleep, everything else got a little bit easier. So yeah, that's what happened when I slept at 10:30 p.m. for 30 days. I became one of those annoying people who talks about their sleep schedule, but also, I became someone who actually likes their life again. And honestly, that's worth being a little annoying.